So you got an espresso machine. You're looking to make a more consistent shot. You're looking to get gadgets and gizmos because it's once you get to the coffee world, you kind of get really into buying all these little tools. It's part of the fun. It's also part of the falling in the rabbit hole. Here is some of the espresso gadgets and gizmos that I've obviously purchased. All of these don't necessarily break the bank. You can gauge for yourself if this is something that you need to up your espresso game. I will let you make that decision. I'll leave all the product links down below, of course, with some additional information for your reading pleasure. In no particular order, let's get started. First thing, tamping mat. So this tamping mat is from a company called Rhino. It's a classic tamping mat. It's pretty thick. The reason that I got this tamping mat instead of the conventional corner one is because I wanted something really minimal that I could just tuck away and be able to pull out. I just didn't want to look at this tamping mat all the time. And what this tamping mat allows me to do is once I fill up my coffee, I can just easily tap it a couple of times to settle the grounds before I tamp it. Even though you could ruin the edge of your counter because it's not an actual corner tamping mat with a fold, you still can use this on the edge because one of the sides doesn't have a lip, which means that you actually could bottomless portafilter against the bench and still be able to work with it. Instead of having a flat mat, which I've seen in other scenarios that have a lip, then it makes it a little bit more difficult to work with because now you don't have a flat surface here. If you want to work against the edge of the counter, I would highly recommend, however, that you do get a corner tamping mat with the little indentation for the portafilter. And notice that a corner tamping mat would only work well if you don't have very largely round corners, otherwise they won't work. So that is that. Next is a dosing funnel. So when you go over darker roasts, you will likely notice it's a bit messier to grind with. Unless you don't mind cleaning up all those grinds all the time, you can get something like a dosing funnel to help with keeping that clean. Depending on your portafilter size, you could alternatively get a dosing cup that could fit directly into your portafilter. You could even shake it as well to make your grinds nice and fluffy and redistribute. But I got myself a dosing funnel directly. This one's from Barista Express. I like it. It's a 58 millimeter, which fits my Breville Dual Boiler portafilter perfectly. It's got 10 magnets. Now, I highly suggest you get a magnetic dosing funnel because it helps really keep it in place. Otherwise, it could easily get knocked over and make a mess, which is the opposite purpose of a dosing funnel, which is keeping the grinds in your portafilter. So the magnets are just an added level of security so you can focus on making and enjoying your espresso. I made the mistake originally of buying this on Amazon, and what you'll notice is there's 4 magnets, and it sat really well, but the problem is that it sat on the inside of the portafilter, and when it sits on the inside of the portafilter, when you remove it, there's a nice little ring on the outside, which would cause more channeling, which is the opposite of what you want happening. Didn't give me a great cup, which is ultimately more important, and also made me have to take more steps to level my bed and everything. Unfortunately, there's a lot of these on Amazon and I don't know why, and I made that mistake of purchasing one, and I don't want you to make that same mistake. So if you get one that sits on the outside of the portafilter. That will allow you to have the grinds go in directly into the portafilter. Well, this company also sells other sizes like 51 for the Delonghi, I believe, and 53 for popular espresso machines like the Breville Barista Express, for example. Something else that some people like having, and I didn't really notice a difference, or I don't really feel like this is something that I'm gonna keep in my espresso routine, but I'm gonna still mention it anyway, is a WDT tool, Weiss distribution tool. Oh wait, is the T already for tool? WDT? WTF. Anyway, this will be fun to edit and post. This one I got from AliExpress. As you can see, it's very not properly QC'd and angled like this. If I were to get another one, there's one on Amazon from a company called Matau, which is where I got this dosing funnel with, which despite its bad design is well made. And where I got this leveler and tamp, I will get to that soon, don't you worry. This one has a nice big handle, which for me doesn't really matter. The Matau has 4 spikes, I guess you can call them, rounded at the edge as well, so it won't scratch your portafilter. And this just helps to redistribute your grinds a little bit, get them all fluffy. This I felt didn't really add anything. Didn't notice anything positive. If anything, I found it made things a bit more difficult, not just in my routine, adding another step. I found that doing this caused little mounds and made extraction a little less even. So for me, this is not something I would use. For you, it might be, I have a Sete 270. It creates fluffy grinds. I don't have an issue with that. This didn't do it for me. This is a no for me. My other accessories, this is a preferential thing. A lot of people like having a separate leveler, a separate tamper, or fancier ones, or one with spring-loaded, all that stuff. I just went simple. I went for a 2-in-1. This is from the company Mattel. So for the Breville Dual Boiler, which is 58mm portafilter, the portafilter itself, I believe, is actually more of a 58.5mm. I've read people easily getting 58.5mm and it fitting very well inside and it having a tighter fit. If I had to do it all again, I would get a al dente, because with this one in here, there's too much space. You can hear that. Too much wiggle room, which means that it's not doing a great job at distributing all of the grinds, and sometimes the grinds will get stuck on the ring out here. There are a few other tamps that also work this way, but the advantage of this palm tamp is that it allows you to set and forget and have a consistent shot each time by having a beautifully leveled bed instead of a more manual one that doesn't have a lip to prevent it from going in deeper, where you could put too much pressure on the sides or on the front or the back, causing an uneven bed and thus channeling. For this tool, and for any tool that you see that's a 2-in-1, usually what you can do is you can unscrew it and adjust this sticking out and adjust this sticking out. For the leveling part, I tend to push it in as much as possible. So with the Breville Dual Boiler, using the manual tamp that came with it, getting an idea of how much depth I need in order to get a nice level tamp. And I'll do this every time I change coffees and go in and manually start adjusting that until it's the depth that I want. So I like this tool because it's compact, it's heavy. This Mattel one is really well built, it's heavy. If you're on a budget, I would say, you know, go for this one because it's definitely cheaper than the al dente. If the budget's not the issue and you want something with a really good fit, then go for the al dente. That would be my opinion for when it comes to the Breville Dual Boiler or any of the 3mm portafilters. Just make sure that you check the size and see what other people have recommended online in terms of sizing. Be actually a little bit bigger. So just make sure that you're getting the accurate information. And if you have any of the advanced machines, you're easily gonna find that information. Next is obviously a scale to measure your dose before extracting, but then you'll also want to measure the yield while you're extracting your liquid gold espresso. I got the most basic scale. I got this for pour over as well. I didn't get the one with the timer. I wanted something minimalist and clean, and I ended up using this a lot for the kitchen, so that's helpful. If I had to do it over again though, I would get a scale with a timer. I thought that would be unnecessary. Why would I need that? I have my phone timer. But having that timer integrated in the scale is a lot easier, a lot less fiddling around than taking your phone, unlocking it, going into the clock, timer, starting it, and starting this at the same time instead of having everything right here. This one I really like. It's rechargeable directly into here. I don't need any external batteries, although I can fit them. I'll link this one below. There's also other specialized scales and timers that I'll link down below with some additional information depending on what your needs are, depending on what your budgets are. There's different ones I can suggest. Whatever scale you get, you'll want to go for one that has up to 0.1 gram precision. Most of them with high ratings, let's say on Amazon, would likely have that. If you want something a bit higher range, you can go for the Time More one. USB rechargeable, sleek, frosted, will be less prone to scratching if that's something that you care in terms of aesthetic and keeping things nice and clean and beautiful. Make sure you check the measurements, make sure it can fit on your espresso machine to factor in the height of the scale, the height of the portafilter, and you gotta make sure that the height here and your cup all work together. Those are things to factor in your decision. The other thing that I would like to talk about is a knock box. You're gonna see a lot of knock boxes online. You'll even see knock boxes that mention how many pucks you could fit in here. It's very easy to empty out, so how many pucks do you really need to put in here is, I mean, are you running a cafe? Because you probably wouldn't be getting a knock box like this. You could be getting one that's integrated into your counter. This is a over-the-counter one. What you want to be looking for is one that has rubber underneath so you can not ruin your counter, and also it won't slide across when you're knocking this thing at pretty full power to get that puck out. I got one that was a little bit slightly tapered because I was reading somebody mention that it can help with weight distribution and and sliding, but I think that's not really a factor to consider here. More considering the size of your counter. I actually find this a little bit too small that when I'm knocking it, most of the time, there's gonna be a couple of drops and grinds that come out. So it's not the cleanest process. It helps me get the puck out, but I still do have to wipe my counter a little bit after. Is there a knock box that would prevent you from doing that? Maybe not, maybe the ones that are in your counter, but otherwise this works really well. It's got a rubber piece here that you can remove. It's a bit dirty, my knock box right now, because I use it, obviously. And you can just easily rinse it. There's not really much to consider here. Just think about, I guess, the aesthetics and your space, and don't get one that's too small. Also don't get one that's too big. Get one that has a rubber ring underneath so you can protect your counter and so it won't slide around everywhere. It's pretty much all I have to say about knock boxes, but they're really good because it helps you collect your pucks easily to compost after. Do you need it? At the beginning when I didn't have a knock box, while I was waiting for it to arrive in the mail, I was taking my puck and knocking it against the garbage, but I was throwing it in the garbage and I want to compost them. So I like having the knock box. It also just reduces the amount of traveling I have to do in my kitchen. Well, my kitchen's not massive. It just allows me to stay in my coffee area and keep all my workflow nice and tidy. I don't have to go to my garbage and open my garbage and deal with the smell of the garbage. Another accessory, and this is if you are a milk-based espresso drinker, would be a frothing jug. I drink flat whites. I use pretty much 4 ounces of milk, so you wouldn't want to get a big one. This is a 12-ounce jug. If you're making drinks for 2 or you're drinking a latte, I think a 20-ounce jug would be better. The Breville Dual Boiler comes with a jug that I believe is 20 ounces. This just works better. You want to get the right size milk frothing jug for your job. Well, why would I waste my money on 2? I want to get the bigger one, so if I have people over, I could easily froth milk for all of them. Yes, but no. You don't want your pitcher to be too empty or too full. For example, if you're going for a flat white or cappuccino for 1 person and you're going with about 4 ounces of milk, then if you have a bigger jug, it might be too empty. You won't be able to submerge your steam wand fully into it for good aeration. And if it's too full, the milk will overflow when you're steaming. For 1 person, I would say a 12-ounce jug is what you want to get. I really wanted one with measurements in size, so I have to guesstimate. If you're looking to buy one, get one with that. That will help you tremendously. 12-ounce jug for about 4 ounces of milk is a good size. You can of course do more, but then it allows it to expand, but it also allows just the amount of rolling of the milk and the depth of the wand and the ratios and everything to work a lot better. If you have a big jug and not enough milk in it, then the wand isn't going deep enough and you're gonna create just all sorts of other problems. So when it comes to the spout and such, I don't really have much comments about that. I'm not a barista. I've been working on latte art. I can do the art and working on the tulip right now. These are very inexpensive. You can easily find them for like 15 bucks, 10 to 20 bucks. So I would not skimp on this. If I were to boil it down to like the bare minimum, if you don't have a tamp, you should get a tamp. Scale is a must. These 2 things are pretty much a must, and a leveler. The leveler helps, the leveler 2-in-1. This I wouldn't get. This is just helpful for keeping your workspace clean and not having those grinds go everywhere. If you exclusively make espresso with a lighter roast, you may not need this because it doesn't create as much mess. The tamping mat, I think it's an essential as well. They're not that expensive either. At the beginning, I was using a little rolled up towel, but I couldn't tap as hard on my counter. I didn't want to like put too much pressure and have it crack my quartz counter. That would be an expensive repair. That would be just way too expensive. So just pick one of these up for like, what, 10 to 20 bucks? Way worth it. Get the flat one, get the corner one, get a big one, get whatever one suits you. There's so many out there on the market. I will include some examples down below. And also my other must would be the frothing jug with the measurement in it. Those would be my musts. Like, comment, share. Let me know what your thoughts and your feelings are about all of this and all of the other tools that you may have or suggest. I'm very curious. Whatever espresso machine you have, let me know down below. And I will see you in the next video.